Were your parents intense about grades? When I brought home a 98% on my spelling test, my mother made me sit at the kitchen table and write, "I am a failure," 10,000 times because anything less than 100 meant I was throwing my life away. My parents believed that perfect grades were the only thing separating us from homelessness and death. They demanded absolute perfection on every assignment, quiz, and test. 99% was a failure. A missed bonus question was a catastrophe. Mom kept a giant chart on the living room wall tracking every grade we'd ever gotten. Perfect scores got gold stars. Anything else got red X's that she'd circle while explaining how we'd disappointed our ancestors. My brother Leo had gotten a B+ once in 2nd grade, and she still brought it up 6 years later as the day he chose mediocrity. He'd cried for a week straight when it happened, but that didn't erase the shameful red mark. The punishments were even worse, designed to make us remember our failures forever. When I got a 95% on a math test, Dad made me stand in the front yard holding a sign that said, "I wasted 5% of my potential," while neighbors walked by. 4 hours in the July heat, not allowed to put the sign down even to wipe sweat from my eyes. My neighbor asked if I needed help, and I had to smile and say no. This was just how we learned. My sister Kaya developed a nervous tic from the pressure. Her eye would twitch whenever she took tests, which made it harder to read questions, which made her more likely to mess up. When she got her first A- in 5th grade, Mom shaved her head in the bathroom while explaining that hair was a privilege for successful children. Kaya wore hats for months, but Mom would rip them off at school events so everyone could see what happened to kids who got A-minuses. The worst part was how they'd sabotage us to test our dedication. Dad would hide my textbooks the night before exams to see if I'd studied enough to remember everything. Mom would set our alarms wrong so we'd oversleep and have to rush because true A students can perform under any conditions. Once they changed all our assignment due dates in our planners, then punished us for turning things in late. They said life would trick us too, so we needed to be prepared. When Leo was 12, he made a calculation error on one problem and got a 96% on his science test. Dad drove him to the homeless shelter downtown and made him spend the night there. "This is your future with grades like that," he said, leaving his 12-year-old son with strangers for 8 hours. Leo came back the next morning shaking and wouldn't talk about what he'd seen. He never got below 100% again, but he also stopped sleeping and started pulling his hair out in chunks. I tried to be perfect, I really did. I studied until my eyes blurred, checked my work 20 times, memorized entire textbooks, but everyone makes mistakes. When I got a 94% on an English essay because I'd misunderstood one question, Mom locked me in the basement with a pile of successful people's biographies. "Read about what you'll never become," she said. I spent 3 days down there with no food, just water and books about people who'd apparently never gotten a 94% on anything. Kaya cracked first. She was in 8th grade, taking advanced courses, and the pressure finally broke her. She got a 91% on a history presentation and knew what was coming. Instead of going home, she swallowed a bottle of pills in the school bathroom. They pumped her stomach at the hospital while Mom screamed about how Kaya was ruining her perfect attendance record. Not about almost dying, about missing school. After that, you'd think they'd ease up. Instead, they got worse. They said Kaya's stunt proved we were weak and needed more motivation. They started making us compete against each other. Whoever got the lowest grade each week had to be the other's servant until they redeemed themselves. I spent a month washing Leo's socks because I'd gotten one question wrong on a pop quiz he'd gotten perfect. The breaking point came junior year. I'd maintained straight A+ for 2 years, terrified of anything less. But I was also taking 7 AP classes, doing 3 sports they required for college applications, and sleeping maybe 3 hours a night. When I got my calculus test back with a 93%, I felt something inside me break. Not crack like Kaya, just quietly break. I knew what was coming. Dad would probably make me burn all my belongings since I clearly didn't deserve them. Mom would find some new creative torture to ensure I never wasted 7% of my potential again. They'd probably make me watch while they praised Leo and Kaya for their perfect scores, explaining how I was the family disappointment now. But when I got home, they were weirdly calm. Mom took the test from my hand and studied it carefully. Dad stood behind her, both of them silent. Then Mom looked up with an expression I'd never seen before. "We've been preparing for this day," she said quietly. "The day one of you proved you weren't really our child." Dad pulled out a folder full of documents, DNA tests apparently, that they'd had done years ago. "We always suspected you weren't ours," he said. Full story on the channel below.